I think that what anybody will be looking for from the NDC's campaign launch was alternative solutions or policies that will be superior, or the superior arguments that will be made. But from where I sit, I didn't see that. Kofi just mentioned about government, the fact that we cannot rely on an 8-hour economy, and talk about the record of former President John Mahama, which, if it is about his record, even the 8-hour economy that he ran as president, he couldn't manage it. The 8-hour economy former President Mahama ran as president, when he was president, the 8-hour economy was in shambles. It was in disarray, because the economy is one of the engines of running an economy. Is the energy sector, it's electricity, it's power, because most businesses depends on power. Here is a president who could not manage power, and so even the 8-hour economy was not managed properly, and all Ghanaians can attest to that record. And it is also not true that Ghana is running an 8-hour economy. I mean, there are various sectors of our economy which are running 8 hours, some are running 12 hours, some are running 24 hours. I mean, it's a combination of all, depending on the demand supply requirements in any sector. I mean, the health sector runs a 24-hour economy. Ghana Health Service, you go to all the hospitals, you have nurses that go, they have 3 shifts. It's not a 24-hour economy. The police service and other security agencies run 24 hours. The transport system, most of it, the big buses in Accra and Kumasi here, they run 24 hours. There are buses that run in the morning, afternoon, in the night. So there is 24-hour economy running in Ghana. One can talk about enhancing and improving it, but to say that Ghana is running an 8-hour economy and somebody is coming to run a 24-hour economy is complete false. It cannot be true. If you talk about enhancement, I will agree. And every political leader must work towards enhancing our economy, including creating more job opportunities through 24-hour economy. But to make the case and try to portray as if Ghana is running an 8-hour economy, and so everybody works within 8 hours, and after that, nothing happens, and that becomes the flagship policy of an opposition party, I mean, it is just a deception. Because for me, we already run a 24-hour economy in certain sectors. I also agree that whether it is MPP or NDC, we must continue to work harder to expand the 24 hours to other areas. But that expansion is dependent on demand and supply. It is not everything that you can actually, every sector of the economy that you can run a 24-hour economy, depending on demand and supply. Because if people are not demanding for a service, how can you supply in continuously for 24 hours? So the demand for a particular product or service will determine whether you run a 24-hour economy or not. If the demand is not there, for instance, I'm holding Baltic water here. Say if the demand is not continuous and then you produce volumes that people will not buy, why will you have 3 shifts to produce something that people will not patronize? I mean, so clearly there are fundamental elements that will determine which areas you can run 24-hour economy and which areas you cannot run a 24-hour economy. And that cannot, I mean, you cannot use incentivize an area that you don't have demand for a product or service and forcefully provide 24-hour economy. And Randy, when you listen to them, they have given various explanations to their 24 hours, and they have ended up confusing Ghanaians. I mean, you are talking about 24 hours, and somebody is explaining that we have to build interchanges. What has interchanges got to do with 24-hour economy? I mean, there are various explanations. Somebody is talking about welding in the night and reducing the cost of electricity in the night. If people are sleeping and people are not welding, don't have things to weld in the night, I mean, if the demand is not there, how are you going to make sure that people are welding in the night? It is a demand-driven activity. So once that demand is not there, you can't supply anything. So for me, that concept by itself is the way to go. And there is no politician who will say that 24-hour economy is bad, but it is also, we must also agree that it is demand, supply driven, and so depending on how we are able to stimulate demand and we can enhance various sectors. But it is not true that at the moment we do not have a 24-hour economy. We have it running in certain sectors. I mean, we can continue to improve it from time to time, depending on demand and supply. Now, Kofi talks about the record of former President Mahama. I mean, you remember that when he did his first 4 years, and there were questions about the 4 years that he has done and the fact that, I mean, he didn't do enough. He himself said that 4 years was not enough for a government to deliver the way it should deliver. That was then. Today, his message is different. When we put to him, or people question, now you are coming for just 4 years, and that 4 years, you cannot do much. He says that 4 years is enough. So the same person in the past, when he was president, said 4 years was not enough. Today, he says 4 years is enough. I mean, which is which? Is that the record that Kofi is referring to? Now, he has also been asked about jobs in the past. And former President Mahama told us that he is not a magician to create jobs for the youth of Ghana.
Are you quoting him?
I mean, those may not be the exact words, but he says he's not a magician.
No, if you say he said he is not, it means that you're quoting him.
Well, it's not verbatim. I'm not quoting him.
So what did he say?
I mean, that was the context. He's not a magician to create jobs for the youth of Ghana. Today, he's talking about jobs. I mean, so what happened under him as president that he wasn't a magician to create those jobs? Is he today a magician to become president and create the jobs? I mean, that is double standards. Is that the record Kofi is referring to? So for me, the fact that they had a successful conference, we must all thank God for it, because in our democratic process, all what we must work towards is making sure that whatever activity a political party undertakes ends up peacefully. But in terms of the messaging, I mean, I don't think that the NDC convinced Ghanaians with a message, because that was their campaign launch. And I mean, they should have had a compelling message that will carry Ghanaians along. But I didn't see that compelling message, because you go for a campaign launch and you mention your opponent's name even more than the name, because the focus should be on what the NDC and their flag bearer will be doing. But if the name of Bawumia is coming more in everybody's message than the flag bearer, it tells you that there is no focus. They are not focusing on dealing with the issues, giving policy alternatives, telling us exactly the things they'll be doing. But they are in the days of condemnation of the opponent. Otherwise, you should not have the name of the opponent coming or be mentioned more than the flag bearer of the party that you are launching the campaign, who should be the focus. If MPP goes for a conference today to launch our manifesto, our campaign, what I expect is that we should mention more about our flag bearer and the things he intends to do. I mean, occasionally you will talk about the opposition and what they stand for and the fact that they don't bring any better option. But to the extent that your party begins to talk about your opponent more than even the person that you are supposed to be marketing, for me tells me that the alternative is indeed scary. And there is nothing actually that put on the table on which basis Ghanaians should be voting for the NDC. Now, Kofi talks about airports and railways being done by the NDC, the former President Mahama. But, I mean, if it is about programs that are intended to be done, There are projects that have been on the drawing board more than 100 years that have not been done. These airports that you are talking about and the projects and the railways that you are talking about were not done. You are talking about getting funding and all those things. There are projects that governments, the previous government have gotten funding, but I mean, afterwards they never happen. So if the credit is being taken because you started a process which you didn't implement, of course, and the current government had to come and do all these airport and railway lines, and it is you, the former government, which didn't do the execution, that takes the credit. If that is what you mean by performance, I am sorry. I mean, these are projects that Ghanaians have seen happen under His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and His Excellent Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So I don't know how come you are taking credit for it. I mean, there were projects Kufuor initiated, the China Rural Electrification Project that happened under the NDC. Up to today, the NDC takes credit for it. But the loan was secured by former President Kufuor. But you never see his former President Kufuor who got the loan, and for that reason, he is the architect of those projects. You claim it as projects that the NDC executed, and you even try to make the point that in terms of electrification, you have done more because of that China exim facility that you inherited in 2009 and continue. So if that is the line we have to argue, then we may have to look at projects that Kufuor initiated, that the NDC carried on, and then you claim credit for it, and then we can do those analysis. But the facts remain that these are things that were executed, and it cannot just be the record of former President John Mahama as a former president. So the records that he makes references to, I don't think are real. I don't think that can be attributed to the former president, because if this current administration hadn't taken steps to implement them, they would have still remained on the drawing board. I don't think that the Kumasi Airport, Tamale Airport, the railway lines he's making reference to would have been constructed. They would have remained on the drawing board. It is because of the effectiveness of this administration, the commitment of this administration, that we have had these projects undertaken.